Combat in Dungeons & Dragons can be time-consuming, but it could also unfortunately cause your players to lose focus. So here's some things for the DMs and players to do to help keep your players focused and also help keep combat moving smoothly. So for starters, let's start with the Dungeon Master. Make sure your encounter is balanced. Now, I don't mean that you have to follow the CR to the letter. I sure don't. I like to pick monsters that fit in the setting, and if it's a high CR, I tweak it in such a way that my players will be able to handle it. So that way they fight something that looks strong, that fits the setting, so they feel accomplished because they beat it. Hopefully nobody went down. Hopefully I tweaked it properly. But they feel accomplished because they managed to beat something that seems stronger than they are when it really isn't. Their focus isn't drawn away from the fact that, oh, they're level 1, so here's a bunch of crawling hands in a forest, The immersion isn't broken because the monsters, the enemies, belong in that setting. Next is don't do group initiative. By group initiative, I mean don't have everyone roll for their initiative and then whoever has the highest, they start, and then you go clockwise or counterclockwise, whichever you decide to do. Don't do that. I know I've heard a couple of Dungeon Masters here on YouTube talk about doing that now. It's a great thing to do, and it's not. It's a terrible thing to do. It saves time, but it saves seconds, if that. The problem with that is you need to decide at the beginning of each session, are we going clockwise or are we going counterclockwise? And no matter what, you're going to have somebody upset, right? If one person rolls a 19 and another person rolls an 18, but you're going clockwise and the person that rolled the 18 is to the left of them, that means that the person that rolled the second highest is now going last. That's not fair. It also makes it so that any class abilities or any feats that they would take that would help with their initiative roll are pointless. There's no point in buffing up your initiative roll if you're going clockwise or counterclockwise, because it doesn't matter how high you roll anymore. If you don't roll the highest, you don't get to go first, and you could potentially go last. It takes away player agency, it breaks immersion, and it's going to leave a bad taste in most players' mouths. The only players who are going to be happy with it are the ones that regularly roll low, because it means they could potentially go second or third. It's bad. I don't agree with it. I don't like it at all. I think people should stop doing it and stop telling other people to do it. My opinion, it is what it is. A lot of you guys seem to have a problem with my opinion on Goodberry, so maybe you'll have a problem with my opinion on that too. I don't care. This is my opinion. Know the mechanics. By that I mean the mechanics of certain things like grapple or disarm, petrification, poison, stuff like that. Know the mechanics. I'm not saying you have to memorize them. We have a DM screen for a reason. And if you're not playing with a DM screen, I highly suggest you get one and use it. It's not for cheating like most people claim. Yeah, you might sometimes have to fudge rolls so that you don't accidentally kill your entire party. But that's not what it's for. It's there so that you have cheat sheets to tell you what each individual mechanic does, so you don't have to try and memorize everything in the Dungeon Master's Handbook. And it also makes so you don't have to spend time flipping through that, because if you have to do your research during combat, your combat's gonna take longer. It's gonna break immersion. It's gonna make your players lose focus while they're waiting for you to research the mechanic in question. Don't focus on just one player. If you have a party of 5 and there's 3 frontline fighters and 2 ranged fighters, you can't have all of your monsters focus on one player at a time. You need to remember that this isn't a game of Dungeon Master versus players. It's a collective game to tell a story. You're not against your players. You're with them in a different way. And there's no reason whatsoever for all of your monsters to just gang up on one player. It doesn't make sense. Nothing and no one would do that realistically. And all it's going to do is it's going to irritate your players. It's especially whatever player you're focusing on. It's going to make them not want to come back to the table and play ever again. And you don't want to alienate your players. And the final one is utilize the ability scores. Okay, what I mean by that is if you have a couple of intelligent monsters, they've got an intelligence score of like 15, which there's not a lot of them, but there's enough of them, and they're fighting and they see that there's a healer in the back that healed the frontline fighter that they just hit, they'd be intelligent enough to go, oh, there's no point in me hitting this guy because so-and-so back there is going to just heal him back up. Let me jump over them. Let me fly over them. Let me go around them. Let me do something to get away from them and go after the healer. Or I've been battering this guy for a while and he's not doing a whole lot of damage to me, but I just took an arrow to the eye that did a bunch of damage to me. I'm really hurting. Maybe I should go after that person because this person's no threat to me. If they've got an intelligence score like that, then they would think about their next move instead of just mindlessly bash on whatever is in front of them. If they've got a high dexterity, there's no reason for them to just stand there and take a beating. Any character, any monster can attempt to move away, can attempt to break away from combat. Yeah, they might take an attack of opportunity. They might not. It all depends. But there's no reason for anything that's not a mindless monster to just sit there and focus on bashing in the whatever player is in front of them. So you have to remember their ability scores and do things that would coincide with their individual ability scores, because it'll help keep your players intrigued in the combat and make sure that they're always thinking on their feet. Now for the players, this first one's a huge pet peeve of mine. I hate it no matter what. Put your phone down. There's no reason for you to have your phone in hand, especially during combat, unless you're looking up your spells, right? The only time I'm okay with a player having a phone in their hand is, one, if they're looking for their spells, like I just said, or two, if we've split the party and they're part of the split that I'm not currently dealing with. I'm only one person, I can only talk to one group at a time, so if we've got two groups and they're in the second group, they can be on their phone, fine, whatever. I'd still rather they didn't, but it is what it is. I'm focusing on this group for now, and they'll put their phone away when I go back to them. But if you've got your phone in hand, you're not going to realize your turn's coming up. You're not. Now, hopefully your DM does kind of like what Matt Mercer does, which is, he'll tell, like, Travis that it's his turn, and then turn to Ashley and be like, and you're on deck, so that way he lets the person who's going next know, hey, you're next, be ready. But also, if you're on your phone, you're not paying attention to what the other players are doing. You don't know what's going on. You don't know how many monsters are still up, how much damage they've taken, potentially. If one's prone, if one's on fire, if one's standing in the middle of a grease pile and it's going to have trouble moving. You don't know because you've been too busy texting on your phone or playing a game on your phone or scrolling Facebook or whatever it is you're doing on your phone. You weren't paying attention. You don't know. Next one is know your spells. Now, just like I don't expect the DM to memorize all the mechanics of the game, I don't expect my players to memorize everything. There's plenty of apps on your phone where you can quickly look up the spell. What I do is by the 5th or 6th session, if my players have stuck with me that long, that means that they're invested in this campaign. And if they haven't died yet, then that means they're invested in this character. I will go out and I will buy them usually like a little leather-bound notebook. I don't have any on hand at the moment to show you, but I'll go out and buy like a little leather-bound handbook that I think would go well with their character, so they can write in their spells and that's their spell book. And if there's any spells that you think you're going to have a hard time remembering, you can either write what page they're on in the handbook and then put little post-its in the handbook. It's like, oh, this spell's on this page. Or what I usually recommend and what I'm willing to do for my players even is write the description out in the notebook that I've given them. If you've got a notebook, write the description out. Write your spells, write the description underneath it. That way you know. If when you go to use that spell, your DM goes, oh, what does that spell do? You can read it from your notes. And if they don't believe you, they can do the research. Or if you've put post-it notes on your player's handbook, you can flip right to them. Like, look, that's what it does, just like I wrote. Properly manage your resources. Now, this is going to be essential to making sure combat goes smoothly. If you've got 2 3rd level spell slots, and you use one in the last combat, and another one in this combat, and you try and use another one, you're out, right? If the DM's doing their job, they're also notching off each of your resources that you've used, but it's going to take more time, and it's going to break the immersion a little bit if your DM has to go, oh, you can't cast that spell, you're out of 3rd level spell slots. Especially if you don't think you're out of the 3rd level spell slots. Or sorcery points, whatever the resource in question is, if you think you still have some, but the DM's been keeping track, and they know that you don't, that's going to cause an argument, which is going to break immersion, which is going to bring your combat to a grinding halt, and nobody wants that. So make sure you are managing your resources properly. It's huge. Remember, you're part of a team. Okay? I have never once DM'd a one-on-one. I mean, I've done one-on-one sessions. Usually, my session 0 will be a one-on-one session if somebody doesn't want to already start the campaign with the party and they just want to run into them. But I've never done a campaign, like a full campaign that's one-on-one. It just doesn't happen. Which means you have party members, you have allies, you have teammates that you can rely on and that you can help. The help action in combat is a game changer. It can make it so that your teammates can attack with advantage, and there's more than just the help action. If you're a healer and you see that one of your fighters or your barbarian is very low on health, heal them. Don't just go, oh, I'm saving my spell slots for if I get hurt. You're part of a team. If they go down, combat's going to take longer. You might lose, you might not, but you might lose a teammate at the very least. You're part of a team, and you need to remember that. Everybody wants to go, oh, I'm the main character, I can solo this fight. No, you're not. No, you can't. You're part of a team. Act like it. Finally, be creative. By that I mean, a lot of DMs implement the rule of cool, which means if you want to do something that sounds really cool, we're going to let you try. We're going to make the spell save or the DC on it, the check for it, be something that's reasonable. It might be a little high, depending on what exactly you're trying to do. But if it's cool, if it sounds cool, we're absolutely going to let you try. All right? And we might even give you an advantage on a hit, or we'll give you an inspiration die. We'll give you something to reward you for thinking something so cool, so astounding. We want to see it happen. We want to see if you can pull it off. But remember, if it's super extravagant, you're going to have to explain how your character is going to be able to do it. But we're still going to let you try because it sounds really cool. And that's what we want. And it helps with immersion. It helps with, getting the players to roleplay, which is a huge part of this game. It's a tabletop role-playing game. And a lot of people forget that it's a role-playing game. So be creative. It will entertain everyone at the table, including yourself, including your DM. It'll get you more things. It'll get you inspiration die. It could potentially get you loot that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten. So that's 10 tips for combat. I've got more. They'll come out later. But for now, this is it. If you learned anything, if you liked anything I had to say, or if you want to argue with me in the comments, please feel free to do so. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I've got a lot more coming, I promise. Thanks for watching.